Welcome back to Behind the Form. Once again, my name is Keith Bateman. I'm here with GoFormz, and we have a very special presentation today. We're going to be talking with a special client of ours, Strategic Sanitation Services, and they're going to be talking about their wholesale transition from paper-based data collection to digital forms with us. So I'm going to bring in a special guest, Kenneth Reyes. Kenneth, thank you for joining us today. How's it going?
Of course, happy to be here.
Awesome.
Going
Well,
well.
yeah, no, we're really excited to have you. You've been a client. Y'all have been a client with us for how long now?
8, 10 years, maybe even.
It's
Uh, Longer than most of your current team.
yeah, I know you're saying that you've been here longer than Rob has, our CEO. So
I think so. We've seen the evolution.
I love it. I love it. So thank you, Ken, for joining us. And yeah, so we're excited to have this conversation with Kenneth today because their use case, like we've done a case study on them, we've done articles on them, but their use case since we've done those has dramatically changed. And this conversation really should highlight all the things you can do and the way you can scale from a small team to becoming a large team over time, and how GoFormz is more than just inputting data into a form. It's beyond that. It can automate a lot of your workflows and can digitize those existing workflows, and it can connect to your systems. Kenneth is really going to highlight he opened my eyes to a lot of these things, a lot of things I didn't know they were doing. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you, Kenneth, and talk through some of these things today. And some of the things we're going to be covering is background. Obviously, the audience wants to learn who Strategic Services is, and what you guys do and what you were looking for. Talk about some of those challenges, what you're facing then, what you're facing as you were going through the transition, and maybe what you're trying to solve now. And then obviously, what did that solution look like? What did the solution look like then? And what does the solution look like now? How has it transformed over the last 10 plus years? And talk about maybe some of those advanced use cases that I was just kind of highlighting there, and then some of the impacts. Obviously, people want to know, can this save me money? Can it save me time? And Kenneth has some really good illustrations of how it saved their team a lot of time. And obviously that illustrates to money down the road. So with that, let's talk about it. Kenneth, who are you guys? What do you guys do? Who do you support? Yeah, tell us a little bit about Strategic Sanitation Services.
Yeah, happy to. So we are the premium provider of trash management solutions for large apartment and condominium communities. We're based here in Southern California, Orange County, San Diego, Inland Empire, Riverside, the whole area here, LA County. And we serve about 250 apartment complexes, a little over 60,000 residential units. I've been in business going on close to 20 years now. And like I said, longtime GoFormz customer. Technology is one of the things that sets us apart in our space, and GoFormz is a big part of how we do that.
Yeah, thank you for that background. And as I can imagine, and we work with a lot of service clients, and we know that can a lot of times that leads to a lot of paperwork. So with that background and just seeing the scale of how many people or how many communities you guys are supporting, I'm going to get right into the challenges because I know we'd like to keep this streamlined. I want to talk about the challenges because you guys were encountering them. So let's start with the beginning challenges. When you guys first started with GoFormz, what was that kind of defining moment, or said we have to switch to something? We got to get away from our old processes. Do you know what that pivotal moment was for your company?
Yeah, so like I said, probably 10 years ago now, team was starting to grow, probably a dozen or so people in the company. And, we had at the time, accounting manager was getting boxes of paper forms on her doorstep every 2 weeks, before
That's a fun
payroll
package.
was processed.
That's a fun
Yes.
package.
Finally, a couple years ago, I got rid of the last of them that were back in storage. Yeah, hundreds and hundreds of paper forms, if not, probably approaching 1,000, every pay period at that point. It wasn't possible, right? And we had a 2-week delay then from when some of our services were completed, to when we received the information in the office. If a customer had a question or a concern or anything, that there wasn't much we could do about it for, maybe up to 2 weeks. And then we were manually, going through the forms to find that.
That, and I mean, this is obviously something that's not just a siloed issue for a company like your. It's across all service industries. We see it in construction,
Yeah.
we see it in all field service type companies that are supporting a wide reach of clients. But obviously, you guys have grown substantially. So I'm assuming that problem was growing as you scaled, and that kind of led to you guys having to say, there's got to be a better way to do this. We can't be retroactively getting, acting on this data. We need to get in real time, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the other piece that I think I'm now remembering played into that is that we started to need to photo document the services we were doing to avoid disputes with customers, solve problems, before they started. And when we had 6 or 8 technicians in the field, they would just email in the photos at the end of the day. Um, but then we couldn't correlate that with the services that were done. And
Yeah.
so being able to bring those two together, right, was a key benefit of GoFormz at the time. And yeah, I think in some ways we hit those hurdles sooner because the nature of what we do is a lot of recurring services, and we'll do 65,000 services
Mm.
this year.
Like,
That's a lot of forms.
I was going to say that's a lot of forms, and it's a lot of clients to keep track of, because obviously
Right.
you want to get paid on time. Your technicians want to get paid on time. So that kind of goes into the payroll process. And because if you're
Yeah,
not collecting money from your clients, you can't pay your technicians. So, I know you guys also use this for payroll, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but you guys
sure.
also rolled out something for the payroll side of things, right, too?
Yeah, so this was probably a year or two in. We started applying a bonus structure for our technicians to
Mm.
incentivize the right behaviors that keep customers happy so we could pay them the bonus instead of paying refunds to customers, right?
Yeah.
And and so we were able to gather a lot of that information with GoFormz
Mhm.
and then put it into a spreadsheet, and that went into payroll, and that worked great at the time. But this is one I think of a really interesting use case that's evolved over the last 10 years, let's say.
Sure.
Um, at the time, we couldn't get the data off of paper. It just wasn't practical, even at a few hundred forms a week,
Yeah.
right? And then we could get the data as an export from GoFormz,
Mhm.
and we were keying in a lot of manual spreadsheet work. So long story short, we went from like 8 hours of data entry in the initial version of this for bonuses down to when we did the last case study with you guys 4 years ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
We had compressed that down by about 40, 50%. So we were at about 4 hours.
That's great.
And today we've further refined how the data collection works and how the reports are generated. And now we're down to 15 minutes for the same piece. So we went from
Wow.
8 hours to 4 hours to 15 minutes. So 95% reduction.
That's
And the
great.
team is 3 times as big as it was. Well, actually, than the original version, probably 5 or 6, 7 times as big.
That's
Um,
crazy. So you're collecting more data, and it's gotten a lot more efficient over time. So,
yeah,
which is crazy.
exponent, 8 times more data and 95% less time.
Usually those things don't go in tandem, but in
Right.
this case, you guys have done
Oh, we had to. I mean, clearly what we were doing wasn't scalable,
yeah.
and we were really, GoFarms has been a big part of making those processes scalable.
No, I mean, that's a great illustration of, like you said, and why I think so many teams are like you. They know they have to do it, and are afraid to take the leap. You guys took the leap, and have continued to not only just stick with the solution you had in place, but also transform that solution and embed it into more workflows, and continue to enhance it. And that's why I want to move on to kind of the solution section here, because you guys have changed the way you've done things over time. You haven't just said, okay, this is the way we've done it in GoForms, because people we talk to a lot, they do paper forms, they use them for 50 years, and they don't want to change. Well, it's no different
Right.
than GoForms. People use GoForms, and they want to use it the same way. You could have been, hey, it works for us for so many years, 9 years, let's not change it. But you guys have continued evolving your use case as the platform has evolved, which I'm still impressed with. And that's how you said it went from a couple hours in GoForms to now 15 minutes in GoForms. That's a testament to you all and the way that you guys have leveraged the platform to its fullest extent, which is great. But tell me, I have a slide up, but I want to learn more about the features, because obviously people, who are maybe looking at GoForms or digital solutions for the first time, like, can you tell me about some of the core functionality that's really saved your team the most amount of time? Because you talked about that 2 hours to 50 minutes. What are those features that really help you consolidate the forms or take, save the most amount of time?
Yeah, so in that piece, a lot of it was the ability to report on thousands of forms and with tens or hundreds of data points each into
Mhm.
a single report that can then be uploaded into another system.
Mhm.
Um, but some of the other things that I think are pretty cool here is that we some of the conditional logic that can be used in forms and
Mhm.
conditional formatting. So a good example when we first started, we were happy to be able to combine photos and GPS location stamps on
Mhm.
the forms. Right, that was a
Mhm.
big jump forward in being able to validate that the services were being done at the right time in the right place, by the
Sure.
right person. Um, and customers like to see that, certainly.
Exactly.
And then the iteration of that now is that we've now taken that data and using some additional tools that GoFormz works well with. We use N8N and an
Mhm.
external database, and we push all that data there, and we audit all of it in real time.
Mm.
And so
Mhm.
one application here is where it used to be that we didn't have photos 10 years
Yep.
ago, and then 5 years ago we had photos to prove the work was done. Now 60 technicians or more in the field, we can't just look at all those reports and validate that everything looks right.
Sure.
And
Sure.
so now this solution, it audits the timestamps in the photos against the time the service was supposed to be done. And if any of the 20 photos that were done in this report don't align with that, it'll send an email to their supervisor saying, "Hey, yeah, here's a copy of the report. You should probably look into this a little bit more. Make sure so and so was on site, doing what they were supposed to. They weren't sitting on the couch at home, or forgot to take a photo, so they used one from last month."
Sure. Sure.
Right.
That's
Um,
so you've created like a
so
self-auditing
that's
loop, a self-auditing loop.
self-auditing loop
Yeah.
on 60,000 forms a year that we could never look at manually.
That
Right. And that will scale to whatever size we are in another 5 years.
No, that is such a great example because, like you said, work validation is essential, and people want to know that you were on site doing that job that you paid for,
Right.
and like you said, you would have lost a ton of efficiency if you had to manually, look at that photo, look at that low GPS location, look at that form, da da da. But you're now pulling that metadata from all of those forms, like you said, and having it auto validate all that data together for you. So you've set up and what I pressed on people a lot of the times is that GoFormz isn't a closed loop system. With the open API, you can basically connect it like you guys have with all your platforms essentially. So you
I mean,
have
it's
yeah.
it's now one of probably 5 or 6 key systems that run the company, right? So, we've got an HR management system, we've got a CRM, we've got an accounting software, and we've got GoFormz.
Yep.
And, we have a problem, and it's one or a combination of those systems, that we look to solve it. So, yeah, we're spinning up new GoFormz forms monthly, if not weekly.
And I love, and we kind of talked about this earlier, but because, like I said, I was learning more about you guys through our conversations, which I love. But you're not just using this for the service portion; you're using this internally for kind of operational stuff inside the office. But you're also like sales proposals. You had talked about
Yeah.
you tried to make sales proposals work maybe in your CRM and HubSpot. It wasn't perfect, but can you explain that for the audience who may say, well, GoFormz is only for X or only for this use case? Can you explain
Yeah.
to how you guys did that?
Yeah, happy to. So a little more context on that. So early on, we brought it in just for our field technicians,
Mhm.
and pretty quickly, probably in the first year, realized, nah, it's worth it to get licenses for everyone in the company because there's applications we want to use that are much broader. Today we do, like I said, 65,000 services. I looked in our account and we've done 80,000 forms in the past 12 months. So we've done 15,000 forms that have nothing to do with the services we're delivering. It's other processes. So
Crazy.
Keith was saying one of our newest, and I'm excited about use cases, is that when we're generating a proposal for a customer, we were going from a spreadsheet to a Word document to a PDF to Adobe Sign, right, to get it taken care of by a customer. It's
Mhm.
2-3 hours to put together a proposal, by our sales admin team. And now we have taken our CRM, we use HubSpot, and connected that with software called N8N to
Mhm.
GoFormz. and our sales team puts in their information like they would have previously. They hit a button in HubSpot, and it sends all of that data to GoFormz, which populates, the 10-page proposal for the customer dynamically. Right? There's 20 pages possible for any proposal,
Mm-hmm.
but it dynamically inserts the correct pages for that, what we're proposing for that customer.
Amazing.
And then it goes off to the customer, like a DocuSign for e-sign.
Mm-hmm.
And the big thing here is that we couldn't use, what was out of the box in our CRM, is that we wanted these proposals to be dynamic, right? So you send this to a customer and we think they're going to choose our silver plan, but really they're willing to spend the money and upgrade. They want the gold plan.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having to go back to the sales team and say, hey, can you send me a new proposal that has the gold plan selected? They just change it and it updates pricing automatically on the proposal. And then they say, oh, actually, it's a little much. Let me pick annual payment terms and I'll save 5%. Right? They do that right there,
Mm-hmm.
e-sign, and it's back to us. And then data gets pushed back into our CRM, everything that they chose. And it's a closed system.
That I love this use case so much because you're leveraging the power of multiple systems together. Like you said,
Right.
You're still leveraging HubSpot for its use case. It's what it's built for. You're leveraging GoFormz perfectly what it's used for, and you're combining them by pre-populating data, saving. And your folks must love that because then they don't have to carry around. They don't have to call in to confirm pricing. They don't have to carry around a book of pricing for services or stuff like that because it's all there. All the customer information, all the service information. They just have to pick from a drop down. And it populates it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we made some other efficiency, parts of the sales process, but on that one, again, we went from probably 2 hours of administrative work to like 15 minutes to get a proposal out the door.
That's great. I
Yeah.
love that.
And we cut out the back and forth that was, maybe half the time they would ask for something different, and then we'd go do it the other 2 hours of work again for a different version.
That is great, and you brought the digital signatures as well. Like you're getting a proposal, you're getting the signature on it, and then it's going back into your CRM. I mean, that's closing the loop there. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I love that. Other use cases to talk about here. We've talked about outside of just services, performance reviews, bonus reporting, vehicle inspections. Is there anything of that, like, do you want to expand on any of those other use cases? Like you said, there's almost 15-20K forms a year that are outside of your service oriented ones. Like, when did you guys decide that, oh, hey, we can use this more than just for a service department? Was there any like key moment that was like, or did people ask for it? Were people like, hey, can we start using this? Like, what was that key moment there?
Yeah, I mean, pretty early on, I want to say the first one we did was expense reporting. There's a lot of good solutions now for expense reporting, but 10 years ago there wasn't anything great that was affordable at the size we were then. So I think that was probably our first submitting receipts, so we weren't chasing them down. And then pretty quickly it just became, well, what's the form that we need for whatever initiative or project we're working on? It's not we customize our systems and we create the new form that we need. So it's pretty efficient to iterate on. We actually have a GoFormz form that anyone in our company can submit to request additional forms or revisions to the current form. So that also feeds into our ticketing system. That's how integrated it is in our system, right? In our process, we probably do one once a week for an improvement or a new form.
That's great. And like you said, like you guys are using it to a full extent. Like, you're doing everything you can possibly do so that all your folks know they go to one app for everything. They can go that for their specific forms. They know they open the app, whether it's, for their department, that's where they go. It's not this software for this software for that.
Yes.
You consolidate it into one place where they all know their forms will be. So
that's one of the things that we've done over time. There used to be maybe 5 or 6 forms for particular different scenarios. And now with the dynamic, functionality available, the technician goes into a single form. They just choose what kind of work they're doing, and the form dynamically adjusts. So the user experience is a lot easier.
And I'm sure
they're not having to remember which one, do I use.
And I was going to say, it's probably helped with, like, I know some of our service partners have struggled in the past, like making sure everyone's working off the same version of that form. Like before, sometimes using different softwares or actually paper, like someone may have an outdated price sheet or outdated service report that doesn't have the same fields as the other one. So having, like you said, everyone working off the same platform or same templates you get to control that version of that form that you're publishing out, like you said, with new changes or new field inputs, whatever it may be. You're controlling that. Everyone's working off the same sheet of music, essentially, right?
Yeah, we can make an update today, and tomorrow morning when the technicians open the form, they'll be using the latest version.
That's yeah, I love that. We also kind of talked about that. We haven't, I'm sure, I don't think we've touched on it, but really talked about the ability to auto trigger notifications to the right people on your team. So like if you guys,
Hmm.
I think it was we were talking a particular forum where if they noticed an issue on site, a service issue on site or something like that,
Yeah,
you set up. Do you want to dive into that? Because I know real-time notifications, real-time alerts are critical in service situations.
sure. So yeah, a couple of things. We talked about the auditing of photos and GPS data. Um, we had that. We also audit the GPS location. So we
Mhm.
have in the data in our HubSpot data, sorry, in our GoFormz database, we have the GPS coordinates of every one of our customers,
Sure.
and the GoFormz form will audit in real time if the actual location that the technician was when they filled out the form was too far away from where they were supposed to be. And
Okay.
that will send an email in
Got
real time to their supervisor that says, it doesn't look, it looks like so and so wasn't, on site.
Got it.
Um, so, but the other application you're talking about is we report, conditions or issues that we find, on site for our customers, maybe with our services, maybe with something unrelated.
Mhm.
And depending, there may be a dozen or so different types of common issues. Depending on which issue the technician, chooses, check boxes or a drop down, it will route that form upon completion to the correct customer service representative who takes care of those types of problems.
I love that. I think that's great because, like you said, instead of it all going to a single like service inbox or going
Right.
to a fresh that like some centralized thing, it's going to the right person who can then do the right action, right?
We do 500 a month, right? We can't just flood an inbox with that. So, right, it gets divided up amongst a team, who handles the right types of problems.
Yeah, you're totally right. And I think, yeah, that's something I think some people who first start GoForms don't realize is that, yeah, you can set up these simple workflows that alert the right people at
Hmm.
the right time. And it's something as simple as that can be super powerful and
Yeah.
making sure people are aware of situations at the right time. And I wish more people utilized it. So that's a great use case. The last thing I wanted to bring up with you, and we've kind of brought it up subtly in your different forums, is how you've consolidated so many different templates into one. Like you guys, like you said, you have different service forms and different form types, stuff like
Hmm.
that. But you mentioned like some of your forms previously on paper would be 10, 15 pages long, but they don't look 10 or 15 pages long on the as a digital form, right? Because you've set up such tight conditional logic and kind of condensed those. Can you once again kind of go into detail? So if someone out there is like, I got these
Yeah.
stacks of pages, how do I do that? How do I make it so my technicians don't hate me when I put it on a tablet?
Yeah. Okay. So here's a good one. We use a form for what we refer to as a site survey. So maybe we're
Okay.
gathering information to quote a special job,
Yeah.
and there might be six or eight different categories of special jobs. Maybe it's pressure washing. Maybe there's a variety of different services that we
Mhm.
you know we provide there, and each one of those might be 2 to 5 or 6 pages for that type of inspection. But
Mhm.
rather than a 30-page form, they open it up, it's one page, and they
Mhm.
choose, okay, this is a pressure washing inspection for, the pool area. And
Okay.
then the appropriate pages, the appropriate 3 pages they need will show up, and then they can, just quickly fill that out rather than going through a bunch of information that's not relevant. Oh, here's another one that we dynamic but very helpful. We have a wide variety of sizes of customers.
Yeah.
We take care of, apartment complexes. We might have one with 20 apartment units that has 2 dumpsters. That's
Mhm.
the areas we service, or one that has 40 trash enclosures.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
rather than have a page with room for 40 sets of before and after pictures,
Yeah.
25 pages long, it's 2 pages when they start. And when they get to the last photo that's available, it just tacks on another page with more photos. And that
Mm.
dynamically, just adds as needed.
That
So then when our customer service team gets the form to send to customers, it's only 3 pages long if it only needs 3 pages, but it's 8 pages if it needs to be 8 pages.
And once that's a great illustration. Both those use cases is a great illustration of how if something you obviously can't do with a spreadsheet or you can't do with a
No,
paper form that you guys have.
fillable PDF or
Yeah, exactly. It's impossible. But all your technicians have to do is check the right boxes, and that form will automatically change to their needs on that site. There's
right.
no, they don't have to. Once again, it's not complicated for them to on the iPad or whatever device they're using. They just click open that form, and it will dynamically change based on their inputs, which is it's
Yep.
simple. It's actually, I think it's a better experience than using paper because it's kind of
Oh,
self
for sure.
onboarding of that form. It's showing them what they need to fill out based on the inputs versus all the information just being available to them, like a paper form is.
And it's self-validating, right? If they try
Yeah.
and submit the form with information that's missing,
Mhm.
right? Let's say there's some of these, you may have a photo, but there's a description under the photo that's required.
Yeah.
If the photo gets taken, then the description's required. If the photo's not there, then there's no description required. So it automatically validates that the form is complete before they can submit it.
Exactly. And then nobody has to chase them down at the end of the day to say, why didn't
Yep.
you, why didn't they add comments to this photo? It's like you said, when they submit it,
Right.
all the required information is coming through. So that's a great
Yeah,
point.
and you're talking about time savings. You know, we have most of our technicians are on iPhones, not even tablets, just the nature
Mhm.
of what they do.
Yeah.
And so every additional click when you're doing 60,000 services makes a difference, right?
Yes.
So we, in a recent version, we put into the database a ton of customer information, 40 or 50 different properties that were normally being filled out manually each
Mhm.
time. The technician goes there, and when they pick the name of the customer from the dropdown, now it pre-populates all of that information. So we're saving, maybe only 60 to 90 seconds, but 60 to 90 seconds for each of the 10 services that person will do
Oh,
today.
yeah.
And there are 60 people doing that every day, right? Now we're saving hours and hours and hours of field time and frustration and mistakes.
And I was going to say mistakes
You know,
because they don't have to write out that entire address again. And they don't, especially if they're
right,
on their 10th job of the day or whatever, last job of the day, and they're
right.
trying to rush through that part of it. Like you said, one drop down pre-populates that whole section of it for them. So
Yep.
that's a great call out with the connecting the database of information there. I love that. I love that.
We get a lot of positive feedback from our customers about the
Mm.
forums too.
Okay.
The how professional everything looks,
Mm.
how complete the information is, that it's a good representation of the work that our team actually does.
And that too is like one of the big things that I think stands alone with GoFormz too, and the way you guys are doing is that GoFormz, we value keeping your branding of that form and keeping that
Hmm.
kind of professional layout so that you guys do all the work and collecting the information. And then when it does get sent to the customer, it does keep that same structure of what you normally would see on the paper, right? That you have the
Right.
logo, you have the lines and the tables and stuff like that. So your customer,
Yeah, we
it
apply
feels like you filled it
all
out
of our branding guidelines, to the
exactly. You're
forms.
not seeing some weird left aligned, PDF that's
Right.
25,000 pages long that looks funky. And they're
No.
like, what did you do with this? But no, like you said,
Right.
it keeps up to your standard and keeps your customers happy. And people
Hmm.
get that almost in real time, which is great. So that is awesome. So let's go into, we've already started sharing some results. So which is great. But let's start talking about some of the results that matter. And so I put this up, but some of the things we were talking about that have changed over time. We already talked about how you changed some of the administrative processes to get go down from 2 hours to 20 minutes. You've incorporated stuff like e-sign into your processes. Generating those 10-page proposals with just a click of a button. Really making those forms more dynamic. So we just talked about that, which I think is a huge, once again, time savings, and also just a process optimization for your team over time.
Hmm.
The other thing, though, I wanted to bring up is, just overall, uh, in terms of the impact on what you guys are doing. What outside of just the time in that sales process, you see on the screen the operation and the reduction in payroll processing time. Hugh, I know that was a initial benefit. Do you want to talk about those for people who don't know your case study, like what surrounded that and how that came to be?
Yeah. So that was I was talking about a little bit with the bonus structure that we have for our
Yeah.
technicians, which is a pretty important part of I think of the quality of our service and making sure everyone self manages their work. And um, but as the team got bigger, it became really difficult to input all of the data every other week
Sure.
that was needed in order to pay out those bonuses. And so now the direct supervisors fill out a simple GoFormz form each pay period with feedback for the service tech on how they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and that just gets emailed to the person in our accounting team that prepares payroll, and she gets one email with all the data summarized that just gets uploaded into our payroll system.
Mm-hmm.
So that was about 8 hours of spreadsheet data entry work,
Oh, wow.
previously, and now it's a 10-minute process to upload into our payroll system. And the bonus is, because we're doing these forms, those get automatically sent to the technician, so they get feedback every 2 weeks about exactly how they're doing in their role.
Which is a
So
great company culture thing, because they feel
absolutely.
seen, they're getting the feedback. They're it's a full
Right.
circle thing. That's great.
Yep.
That's and I know you being the head, and you guys as a team, you really do focus on staff culture of the company and really taking care of
Yes.
people. So
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. The other thing you did bring up that I thought was amazing is this. You guys have built this, and it goes into the impact. And this is a new development, I think, for you guys, is where you're actually feeding the data you collect through a database for analysis, and you're helping determine the margins per customer, so that you guys are making sure that the jobs that you complete on a daily and weekly basis are actually making you money. Because
Right.
there are some times where you may the services may take longer. You may be actually losing money on the customer. So can you tell us about how you've actually connected, like built this workflow where it's actually determining, how profitable is this customer, or do we need to change prices? How does that work, and how did you guys build that? And because I think that's super impactful for a service related company.
Yeah. So like you said, we're recurring services. So
Yeah.
almost everything we do is recurring, multiple times a week or multiple times a month.
Yeah.
So the efficiency of each of those, makes or breaks whether a customer is profitable, or whether we're paying for them to
Sure.
continue being a customer. And historically, once, maybe twice a year, if we had any concerns, we would run an analysis of the service times and validate the margins, as maybe we're preparing for price increases, for the new year. And now we get real-time data or every night data from GoFormz about how long each service at each customer took that day.
Mm.
It goes into that database and then gets averaged over an appropriate time period, usually 90 days, and put back into our CRM, where we have the scheduled service time. So let's say we were scheduled to take an hour and 15 minutes to do our on-site waste control service at this particular customer site. And we see there, though, it's taking us, 2 hours on average for the last 90 days. Now we've got a concern. We need to dig into why it's taking so much longer than it's supposed to. And then, the 6 or 8 services, let's say, that customer has recurring, now rolls up into a margin calculation, so we can see, in real time, we expected the margin to be X, and it turns out it's actually way lower, right? And so what used to be a once a year process of validating, margins and profitability is now a weekly process, for our leadership team. We get a report, we see which customers are below, the standard of where they should be, and we can address them right away.
And I love that, because this is something that I've stressed in past webinars, whether it be for construction or field service or manufacturing. It's the whole thing about taking proactive actions and seeing if there's something in the data that's saying, whether it's reducing accidents, or it's, hey, we're losing money on this material cost or whatever. You're now able to take that data, like you said, on a daily basis, and say, why are certain jobs with this particular community taking longer than it should be? Is it because it's a lot more than we expected and we undercharged, or is it something in our operational things we need to fix? But that
Right.
being able to have that data in real time allows you to take that proactive action and say, okay, let's analyze it. Let's figure out what is going on here, instead of waiting. Like you said previously, it was an annual review.
Maybe once a year. Yeah.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to do that for once a year, and that's a whole lot of time costs and money costs because of that. And
Right.
so I love that you guys have set up something to analyze that and really start making proactive decisions on all your services, which is, I think, an example for many companies in this space. So I wanted to be sure that we pointed that out. That's fantastic. I know we're getting to time, so Kenneth, I want to be respectful of it. So I have one question for you is, and it kind of goes into what we just talked about, but is, for any president or operations manager who's still relying on paper today, someone who may be in the field service industry or maybe specifically in y'all's specific industry, what is the one single most important piece of advice that you would give them about starting their digital transformation and trying to achieve an ROI on it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, pick a use case that's causing you problems, or that you're running into issues with, and start there.
Mhm.
Uh, but then, embrace it and learn how to use the system. And I think you'll find a lot more applications than you ever intended. Like I
Yeah,
said, we came in with 3 forms, to handle one very niche case, and now I know we have 50 or 60, but 50 or 60 that do far more, things. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, start, and it'll definitely, the value will definitely be there over time.
absolutely. And I would agree. I
Yeah, I
would
would say,
start small. You don't
you
have to
know,
conquer the world overnight, right?
no, no, and the value's there. We started with 10 people and the most basic license, in 10 years ago pricing, right? We're paying a far more now than we used to, and we continue to do it happily because the value, at least keeps pace, if not outpaces, the additional investment. And so
Exactly.
just start.
No, and we're happy to hear that. And like you said, you guys are the shining example of getting full value out of the platform. You guys continue to evolve your use cases, use things like the API, use our workflow, things like that go beyond what the website says. You use the full feature set, and
Right.
that's why I implore anyone who's checking out digital form solution or checking out GoFormz in general is dig deep, research what you're trying. Try to get the most out of it. We're more than just a data input solution. We're not Google Forms or anything like
Definitely.
that. You can do all these great use cases that Kenneth has talked about, but it does take some work. You have to invest. Like any software solution, you do have to invest time into it, figure out what you're trying to achieve, and talk to team members like myself and my colleagues, and we'll help you get there. But sometimes it does take time to get set up, and like you said, yours has evolved over time to get better and better and better. But it's very achievable. So you guys are a shining example of that. So but thank you, Kenneth, again for going on. If once again, check out Strategic Sanitation. They do a whole variety of services. Great team over there. Kenneth, is there can people reach out to you if they have questions on LinkedIn? Is there a place that people should reach out to you, or do you prefer them not to reach out to you?
No, no, LinkedIn is great. I'm happy to talk GoForms or anything else that we can be of help with. Yeah.
Perfect. And yeah, if you want to check out, we've done a case study on Strategic and Kenneth. So check him out. We have on our waste control industry page. You can check out his great video we have. We have also a written case study. You can go to our resources section and check that out. So be sure to do that. A great write up there, which is fantastic. And like I said, if you're ready to get started and want to start your journey, I encourage you to go to GoFormz.com. Be like Kenneth and the team there and just get started with a trial and start with one use case, build it out and start seeing the time you can save right away. But once again, Kenneth, I want to thank you and your team for all the time today. I know you guys are super busy, always scaling up the team and all that you do. So thank you again for the time. And we will speak with you hopefully. Well, you're probably working with our team a lot. So we'll speak to you
Yes,
very soon. So
we are.
have a great rest of the week and take care. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Keith. Happy to spend time.